how to master any meta. There's going to be a new season coming soon, but to be frank, it doesn't matter. This will apply to any meta that we come across in Fortnite. These are the general tips and tricks that I learned over the years that I keep in mind during every season. But first, let me introduce you to today's guest. This video is sponsored by NOVOS. In case you haven't heard about them before, it's a tool that you can use to help you prepare for any upcoming Fortnite tournament. What's really nice is that NOVOS was previously $10 a month. Now it's completely free for the entire month of May. You choose what areas of the game you want to work on, select when and what times you want to practice, and NOVOS will generate a professional training routine around you. The plans are created by top players and coaches that will help you reach your competitive goals. Also, I even have my own section called KenBeans High Ground Retakes. The onboarding process is super easy to follow, and in no time you can have your training plan ready to go and get to work right away. Personally, what I really like on this is the workshop section. You can click on any of these videos and it gives you questions to answer while it's playing so you can figure out what to do in what situation. Go to novos.gg, sign up today, completely free, first link in the description down below. So to show you how I got good with this meta, the background of this gameplay is the last solo cash cup of chapter 3 season 2, and it's the closest I've ever been to qualifying in one of these. Literally came down to the last game, and throughout this whole thing you're gonna see me fighting a few pros. The most crucial things you need to keep in mind, this is kind of my general checklist. Number one, most important, you need to learn how to farm any mats no matter what happens in your game. I think what most players tend to struggle out a lot is, let's say you land at a drop that has good metal and you don't end up getting that metal because you get pushed out. In the back of my head, I've learned where the metal reforms are, so I can constantly rotate from spot to spot to spot, and eventually it's almost guaranteed that I'm going to be able to get max metal before I get to endgame. Then to master any meta, you need to have a good understanding about the rotation items in the game, things that spawn on the islands themselves. For example, cannons, Columbo's big nose or whatever, he shoots you up in the air and it practically is like a little launch pad. Thirdly, the things that people want to know the most probably is just the gun loadout. So far in chapter 3, we've pretty much all been aware that you need to carry an SMG almost every single end game you get into, but that's not always the case. Most common loadouts we see are the drum gun and AR, and then 3 spots for heals. Sometimes we see the SMG and the striker shotgun. I'd say for the most part, no matter what meta we're going to be in, you can almost guarantee yourself that having just 2 guns in comp is probably the most important thing when it comes to playing those events. Even when you practice Keen Arena, one thing I've been doing is dropping my SMG to carry just an AUG and a combat shotgun. Getting used to not switching to a 3rd gun is probably one of the hardest things to get used to, especially in the beginning of the chapter when I was using just all 3 weapons at once. So by the time I got to the solo cash cup, I always was used to carrying 3 guns and I would just die before I can even get to moving because my heals weren't that good. It's pretty much almost guaranteed by this deep in Fortnite that you only need to have 2 guns. One of the simplest ways you can master the meta is realizing the type of player you are. Essentially, this game's been divided up a lot recently in the past couple months. You have the normal comp where building's allowed, and then you have the no building tournament. I think we've seen lots of different people evolve in the no build tournaments because the pros aren't really grinding those out. There's a lot to be learned about no building in Fortnite, but you can tell the people who are at the top, they all share some things in common. They strictly love to play that specific mode all the time, and they play to the strengths in that game mode. So for example, I'm going to lay this out for you. When you play arena, you probably want to have 3 guns. You're not going to be burning through so many heals like that, and it would probably be more worth to keep the pressure up whenever you're fighting someone. When you play comp, you need only 2 guns because you need to carry 3 slots for heals and all that. Maybe rotation items if they get added, because it's more worth to play placement. By the time you get to the end game, you're going to be shredded on rotates and all that stuff, so having heals is way more important. In the no build mode, people always carry the rocket launcher, they carry shock waves. The easiest way I've been looking at the meta and trying to master is just by watching some people who are at the top and just trying to replicate what they carry and what they use. When the drum shotgun was first added, it was so broken. Everyone was only using 2 guns because that's literally all you needed. Then a buff came to the striker shotgun, and then people started using that instead. Also, another strat that I see people do to master the meta almost all the time, this wasn't really too popular I feel like at the beginning of the seasons, but people would be fighting with one loadout in the early to mid game, and then by the time they get to the end game, they'll find that other gun. So for example, people carry AUG and striker. You get beams, you get your surge, and then by the time you get to the end game, you'll probably find an SMG just by rotating, and you can quickly pick that up, swap it. That way, when you get really close to the end of the game, the last person you're going to fight, you're going to have the best loadout, which is the SMG and shotgun, which is obviously the best for close range, so that's what you're going to want. On the topic of loadouts, if you want to know my ideal one, I would say it would be doing just what I explained. It would be AUG and then striker shotgun, and then eventually I'd pick up an SMG later on down the road, or if I know I don't need surge in the lobby, I just carry SMG and striker shotgun. I don't know if you've realized by now, you probably have, but splash is the most important healing item in the game. That and also floppers. I've been going out of my way, especially in this cup, you're going to see me, I've been carrying floppers and splash as much as I can whenever I see them. The amount of opportunities you can get with having white heals that are quick to pop is pretty much endless. Just in general, the whole point of this video, just remember to kind of separate what it is that you struggle at mechanically and what it is that you struggle to learn about the meta. Those are 2 separate things in my opinion. You can kind of have crappy mechanics but be really good at understanding the meta, and you can probably perform at a pretty high level. If you struggle to understand the meta but you have really good mechanics, I feel like at times you're still going to get outplayed, but overall you probably still do really good. But that just goes to show how important it is to learn the meta every season as fast as possible. This gameplay right here, this is 100% me versus a hacker. You would think that the craziest part is that right after I verse a literal demon on the game. Definitely a pro. Nah. This guy's hacking. So yes, I ended up dying. Honestly, kind of got pooped on, but we end up having a part 2 in the exact same spot next game. After that, I'm in this game here rotating and I got completely fried. I clutch up a kill towards the end game and play my life as hard as I could. I finished 11th place, which wasn't too bad because now I'm at 91 points, which is kind of close to qual. Past week's qual was around 117, so I'm in this game thinking if I could just get like a top 2 or maybe a top 3, that I'll clutch up. This end game right here, the very last one, this was the game I needed to clutch in order for me to get to my first finals in a solo cashy.
Not right. This is not cool. This is not right. This is not.
What a psycho! It's the kid that. Demigod for that. Hey man, new record though. New record.